going to deal with the bunny, cute little bunny. I've got my clay, as you can see here. I put it in a bag because I want to keep it so it's nice and wet and workable, and it was getting a little bit dry in the other container. I've got my pot of water. I've got various tools littered around in a very unorganised way. Obviously use any tools you can get your mitts onto. I've got some dental tools here, don't ask any questions, shall we say. And then there's some clay tools, and knives can be handy. You can raid your kitchen cupboards and have all manner of things. Spoons can be handy. You're going to find that a sponge will be really helpful. You're going to need a little bit of warm water in a tray or a pot, and you're going to need to make some slips. So we're going to go through that. Obviously a container and a brush is going to be required for the slip. So to start off with, reference images, really helpful. I'm going to deal with the bunny, and I'm going to look at just basically having him sit there, ultimately, more like this type of thing. But it's good to have a few different angles to help you solve problems. You're working in a 360 version, therefore the more images you've got, the easier it is to problem solve and figure out what shapes you need to generate. I've got, that's everything I think. So let's get on with things. We're going to build the main body of the bunny first. So think about how much clay you've got, because remember you're going to be doing the chick and the bunny. So you might want half what you've got. Get them the same size. It depends. If you like bunnies more, give your bunny more clay. What can I say? Then you're going to need to create the body. Now the body is generated by making a ball. And to make a ball, you need to make 2 pinch pots. So you need 2 balls of clay that are of equal size, ultimately. This clay was a little bit dry, so I've put a little bit of water on my hands and just worked it into the clay. If your clay is a little bit too wet, you'll probably want some newspaper, and you just generally run your clay in a ball over your newspaper, and it'll suck out the moisture and it'll make it more easy to workable. You're looking for a nice smooth, doughy consistency that keeps the shape and doesn't crack while you're manipulating it. It's going to be really good for dexterity. You can see both hands at once. So to start off with, we need 2 pinch pots. You take your ball of clay, and you're going to get really good at making pinch pots, shall we say, and you roll it into a ball. Then you take it so it's in your fingers like so, little butterfly wings, and you put your 2 thumbs and you press down into the centre. Now you work it out using your fingers. So you're fingering around the edge and you're pushing down with your thumbs. You try not to put too many marks on the clay. You can see my nails are a little bit too long for doing this, but generally creating a bowl shape. Now you're looking to make half the body size from this. You need a decent thickness of clay to get this technique to work. So don't make this too thin around the edge. You also want it's a nice round cup shape. So make sure your edges aren't flaring out. It's a little bit clumsy. It should be looking like this. And you're using your thumb and your fingers to try and get even amounts of clay from the bottom all the way around to the sides. And aim of the game ultimately should be one of those. Actually, it should be 2 of those. So if you're not very good at it, you'll get lots of practice, shall we say. Do a little bit of extra jiggery pokery, like so. Now these bowls are going to be joined together like so. Looks a little bit like an acorn. To get this to work, you need to make sure you've got a good connection between the 2. So your wall should be nice and thick, and they should be the same kind of thickness on both bowls, as you can see. Then you want to get something sharp, like a knife. It doesn't have to be uber sharp, but fairly sharp. And you need to go around and cross hatch both of the connecting sides of the pinch pots, as you can see I'm doing here. And I'll probably speed this up so you don't get bored. A really good length. Now this is the air dry clay. You would do exactly the same technique whether you've got air dry or normal kiln firing clay. Once you've got those, you need some slip. Now you might know how to make slips. Some of you have a little bit of experience. If you don't, I will talk you through it. You take a little bit of clay, like so. You pour some warm water into a container, and then you take your clay and you squeeze it between your fingertips so that you get these shavings of fine clay, which you then put into your pot. This is generally the glue that's made for connecting all clayware, and again works whether you're using kiln firing or air dry clay. It'll create a nice strong link that should stop cracking and make sure that things don't fall apart, because you don't want your head falling off your bonnet. It's not the best Easter look, is it? Once you've put some clay into your pot, you then take some warm water and you add it to your clay shavings. Then, using a stiff brush, you want a fairly stiff brush, you stir the whole lot together. The warm water should melt down the clay so that you get more kind of a double cream consistency. It's the glue that's going to hold your sculpture together, so make sure you kind of get a decent amount of clay into that water. Should be able to stir it. It can be a little bit runny. You see how runny mine is? But it'll still work. That's not a problem. But if you've got it thicker, it's the best. Once you've got your slip ready, and you've had a bit more time than I have, so I imagine your slip's going to be awesome, you then put your slip around the top of your pinch bowls. Pinch bowls. That's right. Losing my mind. So, more is better than less, and they should have it just like so. You'll probably find some kind of collects in the bottom of the pinch pots. Then, in one swift movement of complete bold courage, we slap the two together, and you should hear some good sucking kind of bubbling noise. You get it kind of like this. You can see that acorn shape. Then use your fingers, and you're going to have to be quite confident with this process, to push one side over the other. Generally disguising that join and making it nice and strong. Now it's a bit messy and you do have to be kind of quite tough on it. Remember, the walls are fairly thick. We did thick pinch pots in that early stage, so you can be quite tough. The air pocket in the centre is going to hold the shape, keeping it round. So you've got a pressurised system in place. Don't be too worried to kind of give it a real welly, whacking with your fingers. So now you'll know when you've got a really good one, because that divide between the upper and lower pinch pot that you kind of generated should vanish, and you should end up, if all is going well, a nice round ball. Now don't make it too round, because obviously rabbit bodies aren't equal to tennis ball shapes, but it's a good starting point. I should end up with something just like so. Okay, like that. It's pretty good. It weighs a ton actually. It's quite a bit of clay on there. Now, with the rabbit's bodies, we've ultimately got to shape it, and this is at the stage where you can have a bit of creativity if you want. You don't have to go for the same shape that I'm going for, but I'm going to have my rabbit sitting down. So the top chest of a rabbit is smaller than the bottom bit, because we've got those big thighs and the back legs that kick. You're going to need to then shape your ball into your rabbit's body shape. And we're not thinking legs or head or anything like that. We're just thinking rabbit body shape. So we've got that big bulbous bit down here where we can have our legs, our back legs, small bit at the top, and then we're going to stick a head on, because it's going to need a head. This is going for a Halloween type of decapitated rabbit. Not really the look I thought you'd probably want for today's class. So let's shape that down and play around with it. kind of like that. Still fairly heavy, very heavy. Now, because clay shrinks and on something like this you're going to lose 10%, it is going to get much smaller. We've got that air pocket in the middle. Before we finish the project at the end, you do need to make a hole to release the air or it will crack. If it goes in the kiln, it'll go boom. Depends on what kind of results you want ultimately there. Now, I'm going to have to make a head. So I'm going to grab a bit of clay. And I'm looking kind of like at my body and at my head, and I'm looking at my pictures, and my head's pretty small with rabbits. They're not that big. So I'm going to then take my piece of clay and I'm going to play around with it just to get it warmed up. It's the heat in my hands, it's always handy. And I'm going to start sculpting a head shape. Now this is where you've got to really look at your pictures. Some people find it easier that if they've done a drawing. Ultimately, if you want to get out of jail free head shape, you're looking at kind of an egg, okay, teardrop shape. Now if you want something a little bit more accurate than the teardrop shape, with a rabbit the jaw is triangular, so it's smaller where the mouth sits under the nose, and it gets wider towards the back where we're going to have the back of the ears. The eyes are quite far back and the nose is fairly long. Depends if you want to go for like a hair shape, you could do. You can play around with that. Take your fingers, manipulate the clay and think about the shape you want to generate. Okay. A lot of good hand and eye coordination is going on here. Think about the size of the jaw, where the jaw sits underneath the eye, so you might want like a cheek. We're not worried about any nose or mouth shapes at the moment. Kind of looks a little bit dinosaur-esque. And I might actually take something. I've got something brown that I think just create a little bit more of an indentation for the eye socket. Make my eye socket back here. You can see that's where my eye's going to go. See, I've built up that cheek shape. And I'm going to whack some bits in where I'm going to my ears. You can see I've got my little teardrop ready. Now I've got that side of the face. Hopefully you can see that. Then I need to do the same on the other side. You're probably going to need to look straight down at it to get that line of symmetry. So I need to build up a little bit more at the back of the skull. My body to one side, a little bit more clay, back of the head in, a bit more. Now I've got to be careful because this head has got to fit the body, and if you make the head too big it's going to look deranged. And I'm sure you all want deranged bunnies for Easter. Be careful how much you're adding, and you might want to take your body and just put your head on it just to double check you're not getting a bit out of control, which I am. That looks pretty good. Got our beginnings. He's obviously really raw at the moment, but you know, he's going to require a bit more work. We're going to join the head onto the body, so remember how to do that. We cross hatch. You cross hatch both bits that are going together. Then you get your slip, you put your slip on your head, you put your slip on your body, you press the two together. As you can see, looks a bit like a squirrel at this stage, but hey. And then a little bit of brute force is required. Going to reshape that whole head now. And then going to use my tool and I'm going to just work my head into my body. Like so. Going all the way way around, making sure I've got a really nice, strong connection there. Okay, you should have something that looks roughly like this. I'm just going to sit him in front of me so I can see that his head is symmetrical. Right, so we've got our rabbit, we've got our head linked to our body, but we're going to make it a little bit more muscly, so I'm going to squidge it so that you can see the back is flaring out compared to the front, and I'm going to indent back the neck just like so. Okay, a little bit of a lump there, smooth that out. So we're going to make some legs. Grab some clay. And obviously the legs are pretty easy going. We're just looking at long kind of shapes, like so. So when I pour it a little bit more round. And we need two, because you do two, and then we need some on the back. So we're going to ultimately need 4 of these. They all need to be the same, or your bunny rabbit's going to look like it's going to fall over. So take one, put one next to it, check it looks pretty even. Okay, 4. Now we need to join these on. So we're using the same process as we were before. I'm going to use the top one first. I'm going to get something a little bit sharper than that. Okay, that's what I prefer. Something a little bit more of a finer, sharper line. Okay, and let's do 2 front ones. See, that's going to go on there. And I got this one to go on the opposite side. I don't look completely deranged on there. So, get our slip, put it on our leg, and we put it on our body. Put it on our body. And get our leg. Press it in. So. Remember, you can always use your tool just to smooth it out. To smooth that leg into the body. So take our finger to smooth out the marks. Got to do the same on the other side. Now, because I was doing that, I might need to put in my connecting crosshairs. Side. I'm going to face him so that I can check that they're going on evenly, so that both arms. As you can see here, I think they're a little bit lower down, so I'm just going to push them down a bit more. So he's got a little bit more of a neck. Tool, push that into there. Use my fingers, smooth it over. Looks like a nice even join. A bit clumpy, but we'll sort that out in a little while. Remember, it's going to be hairy anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, now before I put his back legs on, I'm going to put his ears on. Because it's going to get a little bit more difficult to hold everything. So I'm going to pause on my legs, grab some clay, some ears. Now, you know, it depends on whether you want a rabbit or a hare. And with bunnies, when they're younger, the ears are a little bit shorter. It's completely up to you and where you want to go with this. So take the amount of clay that you think is right, then start shaping it between your fingers. What you're ultimately looking at is having a thin teardrop. Okay. And give yourself a little bit extra on the base so it can join them to the head. It reminds me a bit more like of a petal. Just shaping around. To go on here. So, yeah, that looks like it'll fit okay. I'm just checking at the moment because you see I haven't done the crosshair. Now I'm going to do that cross hatching. And you can see I've got this excess lump that I'm going to remove, just so I could handle it easier. I'm going to tighten it up at the bottom. Get a little bit thinner. There you go. Make another one. Smooth out any joins if you need to. And getting there, he's becoming a bunny. Looks like someone's taken a chunk out of that left ear. He's a bruiser bunny, what can I say? And clean up the back of the connection. Then let's add his back feet legs on. So I'm going to cross hatch. A bit of a podge, my rabbit, but anyway. Let's do the other side. Oops, just see that. Let's just smooth that out. Okay, we should be looking at something quite cutesy, like so. You might need to thin him down a little bit. So it's going to be playing around. But you can see you've got the basic rabbit shape now. Everything else is about building up detail. So think about the paws. think about the angles of your paws and also how they come into these very wide shaped thighs. So you can see like the thighs are quite sharp, big. I'm going to make a little bit more wide on the bum area. Give them those big, powerful back legs for jumping. Okay, you've got your basics starting off. Then at this stage, you now need to start building up the detail and refining them down. So it's going to be about playing around with detail. You're probably wise to start off with stuff that is a bit more big and clumsy. For instance, finding down the legs, because as soon as you hold it and you kind of try and tug on it to do something serious, you will find that you move something that you've done earlier. I'm going to give him a little delicate pause. See, he's got those basic legs, he's got his body. I'm going to thin him down just a little bit more because my rabbit's going to be a little bit more tubby around the back end, or Winnie the Pooh kind of style. I'll exaggerate those back thigh. A little bit of water on your fingers if you're finding that your clay is getting a bit tough to work. Do you make sure that he sits down as well? You might at this stage need to actually plonk him down in front of you on a table to check that he doesn't fall over. So you might need to just do a little bit of balancing out to check that he stands up. And then I'm going to... Oh, as you can see, he's drunk on mine, so I need to counteract that weight. I just need to give him a little bit more of a balm. Put his paw flat down here will probably help. So putting those back paws down, you see there, I've got him there, he's putting his back, this paw, so it's levered down so he can sit on the flush. Getting something kind of like that. Okay, I'm going to just... I am terrible with stuff like this. I will fiddle, try and get it more and more accurate. It's up to you on how much time you want to dictate to doing this bit, shaping it. The more time you do give it, obviously the better it will look. And I'm going to just play around with his face now. So, now gets the fun bit. We've got the basic shape. I need to put a tail on, obviously, but I can shape his head. Like so. I need to keep wiping that off. I'm going to start shaping his face. And I quite like the marking that I'm getting. You can see that tooth marking, because I think it works quite well for fur. I'll build that up and use it to my advantage. I'm just going to have a little cute nose. So, just do a V shape ultimately. Top, and then that comes down and you get in that mouth. surface. I'm going to be careful how I'm holding him. Now I'm going to have to probably just do one side because normally you'd have him flat on a table, but because I'm trying to show you what I'm doing, I need to hold him a bit more than you normally do with this type of clay work. Okay, now you can play around and refine his ears a bit more because they do look like he's had a bite out of one of them. Yeah, he's looking good. Need to make a little tail. So if you get a ball, clay, you cross hatch it. I'm going to cross hatch his bum where the tail's going to go on. And obviously put a little bit of slip on. So, depends on how big you want this tail to be. And then I'm going to ruffle it up. So first of all, if I stick it to my bum, and then I cut into it, I can generate that shape, an idea of texture. Yeah, put a little bit more around his legs. Take off that bit of clay that he was sitting on. And there you go. You should have your Easter bunny. Looks quite cute. You can play around with him as much as you want. You can refine the detail, and you know, the ears give quite a lot of character to the rabbits. So the better they are, the better it will look. You know, you can play around with that. Make him a little bit more fluffy inside. He looks quite cute. If you wanted to, you could also give him little round ball eyes. They do need to be quite small though. You see here how small. You go for that. Then you need to cross hatch just like we do with everything, or they'll fall off. Slip in there, put your eye on, and go on now, I've done that. There you go, you've got your bunny rabbit for Easter. Now remember, this is a hollow chamber, and because such you do need to let the air out, so you need to make a hole for all that oxygen to escape, or your rabbit's going to start to crack. Okay, there you go, little Easter bunny. He's quite cute at the moment. He'd be even cuter if you let him dry and then paint him with some acrylics. Right, so you should never put any clay down the sink, no slip down the sink. Put your slip into the bin and make sure you wash your hands. Try and take off any clay beforehand. You'll also find that the clay is not the most healthiest thing to consume, so ensure that you wash your hands thoroughly before drinking and eating. Also, clean up your area using a wet cloth. Dry clay dust is bad for you to breathe in, so keep your cloth wet and damp and wipe everything down with a cleaning solution. That should get through the clay quite easily. Please look after yourself, and you may find that the clay, well, working with clay dries your hands out, so a good barrier cream or a hand lotion afterwards will make your skin feel much better. Hope you enjoyed the session and you've had fun. Bye for now.